this video, we're going to learn the notes of the entire guitar fretboard with standard tuning and drop D tuning. This is for guitarists of all genres, except of course people who are playing in various non-standard tunings. Here's how this method is going to work. We're going to learn the basics of notes and their ordering, and then we're going to learn how the notes are organized on the guitar. Then we're going to learn a series of tools, exercises, and applications that'll help us to develop fluency moving up and down individual strings, and then moving cross string. And by extension, we'll be able to move diagonally very quickly once we've developed fluency with the other two directions. If any of this is already familiar to you, you can skip over certain sections. All the chapters are in the progress bar and the description. Some important things to bear in mind while learning these skills is that this is a progressive method. All the skills build on each other, so I encourage you to learn each one solidly before moving too far ahead. Your goal should be that each skill is easy to execute, and then move on. Also, make it relevant to your guitar playing. If you apply this knowledge while you're playing music, it's going to make the whole process easier and faster, and it's going to get established in your long-term memory much more quickly, which is one of our two main ultimate objectives. Get it deeply established in your long-term memory and make it usable for your guitar playing. Here are the basics of notes and how they are organized. As you're learning this, I encourage you, especially if you're new to it all, take breaks, take notes, which makes a far deeper impression on your brain, and also review it. I am going to provide exercises that will force you to deeply internalize this information so you can recall it quickly and easily, but you want to also understand it. In Western music, we work with 12 different notes generally. However, that would be a lot of different notes to identify, each by individual names, so they're actually generally identified by 7 different names, which become our natural notes, is what they're titled, and then we can refer to the others by reference, and you'll see what I mean shortly. The notes are named after the first letters of the alphabet, so A, B, C, D, E, F, and G are all the 7 natural notes. And if you were to ascend past G, you get to A again. It's sort of like a clock face where it's going to repeat. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, and it continues in an infinite cycle. Now, most natural notes have a note in between them called an accidental. So for example, if I were to look at string 1, fret 5, string 1 is the string closest to the floor. Well, this is an A. String 1, fret 5 is an A. If I were to go toward the sound hole 1 fret, now we're on 6, that's an A sharp. So A going toward the sound hole, a higher sound, is going sharper and becomes A sharp. So by reference to A, we identify A sharp. And conversely, fret 7 is a B. Well, if I go down from B, that becomes a B flat. So going toward the headstock and a lower sounding note is flatter. Think of flattening something out, whereas sharp is something that pokes upward. You would think it's going up. So A to A sharp, B to B flat, and you may notice, well, A sharp and B flat are the same note. That's exactly correct. The $5 term for it is enharmonic if you want to get fancy. But if you ever see those two notes, they are the exact same note. Now, all of the natural notes have accidentals between them, except for 2 pairs, B, C, and E, F. So for example, at fret 7, we have B, and fret 8, we have C. So B, C. B sharp is C, and C flat is B. So that's the weird exception to the principle. E and F, if you do open on the first string, then the first fret, that would be E and F. Open, first fret, E, F, no in between, so F flat is E, and E sharp is F. I would encourage you to study a fretboard diagram and just follow a string horizontally. Don't think about the cross-string relationships yet. Just look at how each of these natural notes has an accidental in between them except at the pairings of B, C, and E, F. Alright, let's do a quick review. So here's what the string does. If I were to go up through all the notes on open, for string 1 we have E, first fret is F, third fret is G, fifth fret is A, seventh fret is B, eighth fret is C, 10th fret is D, and 12th fret is E again. Now the notes are going to loop again, just like I talked about that clock face earlier. It just proceeds upward infinitely. This is the same note, but it's a different pitch. It's an octave higher is what they call it. But basically here's a lower E and here's a higher E, but they're both E. If this is helpful to you so far, I would encourage you to like and subscribe. However, I would discourage you from turning on notifications because they are terrible for your ability to focus. Now is a good time to go ahead and learn the open strings of the guitar. The notes, starting on string 6, are lowest sounding, but closest to the ceiling string. Starting there, we have E, A, D, G, B, E. Now it's a little weird to memorize just a series of letters like E, A, D, G, B, E. So oftentimes people use what's called a mnemonic, which is a memorization device. So what we would say is something like Eddie ate dynamite, goodbye Eddie. And the first letter of each of those words corresponds to each successive string. So Eddie ate dynamite, goodbye Eddie. Or eat all dead gophers before Easter. If you don't like either of those, there are plenty more out there. You just Google open string mnemonic guitar and you'll find many, many options. You can find one that you like and just practice it enough times that it's deeply ingrained in your brain. Here's a brief explanation of how the strings relate to each other. The best way to internalize it is to play through this exercise. We're going to start on string 6 open, and we're going to play each fret up to fret 5. Open, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then go ahead and play string 5 open, and you'll hear that that's the same note. So when we get to this 5th fret, it's the same note as 5 open. And the same principle is going to apply to the next 2 pairs of strings. So on string 5, open, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 4 open is the same. 4th string, open, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 3rd string open is the same. String 3 is now where the pattern breaks. Instead of 5th fret, it's going to be 4th fret. Open, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is string 2. String 2, open, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. String 1 open. So by doing that exercise, we can see where the strings relate to each other as we ascend just stepwise through frets. So what you could do is do an exercise like this. You would go up to 4 and then play the next string. Open, 1, 2, 3, 4, open on 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, open on 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, open on 3, 1, 2, 3, open on 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, open on 1, and then back down. 4, 3, 2, 1, open, 3, 2, 1, open, 4, 3, 2, 1, open, 4, 3, 2, 1, open, 4, 3, 2, 1, open. And by doing that exercise, you're basically going to program in your brain that as I go up by frets, the sound gets higher, and as I go down by frets, the sound gets lower. The pitch gets lower. In addition to the fact that you're also going to program your brain to intuitively understand that as you go up strings, the notes get higher. And as you go down strings, but toward the ceiling, the notes get lower. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The pitches are getting lower and lower and lower. 6 to 1, ascending. And that is how the strings relate to each other. Here's an exercise for linking the natural notes. So A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, we can have a seam in our brain going from G back to A. And we can also have difficulty going backwards. But these are skills we need to be able to do effortlessly while we're handling our instrument. So we're going to practice this exercise. First, try looping forward. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. We need to be able to just get past that G to A without any hesitation whatsoever. And you may notice if there's any fraction of a second of stoppage that breaks your pace from the other notes that are easy for you, then that's an indication that you have not broken that seam and that you need to continue working on this. But you should be able to just A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. And it should be no problem. If you can do that, then learn them backwards. G, F, E, D, C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C, B, A. And same thing, start slow and make sure there's no seam. G, F, E, D, C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C, B, A, G. You should be able to maintain a consistent pace. And if you can crush that, then go ahead and develop that speed, build up to a pace where you can do it without making mistakes or hesitating. G, F, E, D, C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C, B, A, G, F, E. The best thing to do is find a speed where you won't make mistakes. If you practice at a speed where you're consistently making mistakes, then you're learning those mistakes because you're programming your brain through repetition. So find a speed where you make no mistakes and you'll program your brain to not make mistakes, and then it'll be a little easier the next day to take it a little faster. And that is also a little nugget of wisdom right there. Sleep on it. Don't expect a lot of progress during your practice because your brain builds new pathways while you're sleeping. So oftentimes you'll have speed improvements between practices. So rather than going for brute forcing it with a lot of time today, try to just spend a minute or two on this skill every day or two. And within a week, it should be easy for you to go forward and backwards quickly, no problem. Here are a couple of exercises for learning how to ascend and descend the notes of a string. First, we have to learn deeply that there's no note, no accidental between B and C, and no accidental between E and F. Once you have that solidly memorized, you can just default to putting a note in between, unless it's those two. So let's look at string 1, and assuming you did your homework and learned an open string mnemonic, and learned the open strings E, A, D, G, B, E, then open is E, and we know that. So going from there, well, that's one of our note pairs, E and F. So E to F, there's no note in between. F to G, we've got a note in between, so we skip one to get to G. G and A, we skip a note. A to B, we skip a note. B and C are one of our pairs. C to D, we skip a note, and D to E, we skip a note. Now we should be able to do this on any of the 6 strings using that pattern by understanding how the notes are organized. If you could do that, then you would proceed to the next phase, which is descending. So pick any string. Let's go ahead and take string 2, which is B. Well, the notes always loop at the 12th fret. So if you know that open is B, then your 12th fret is also going to be a B. And same for all the strings. So let's start with this B, and going backwards from B, we go to A. Well, between B and A, there's a note, so we skip. From A to G, there's a note in between, so we skip. G to F, there's a note in between, so we skip. F and E is one of our note pairs, so we're not going to have a note in between. From E to D, there's a note in between, and D to C, there's a note in between. C to B, that's our note pair, right next to each other. So the goal should be that you could pick up any string and be able to easily do that. And the best way to practice it is simply pick different strings. If you want to randomize, you could even just grab a 6-sided die and throw it, and okay, I'm going to do that string number. You get a 2, then okay, string 2 descending. Okay, I roll a 6, all right, string 6 descending, and so on. But you basically just want it to be easy for you to quickly identify that before E is a D and it's a whole step, or I skip over a note to get to D. And the fastest way to really internalize it is to just pare it down to knowing B, C, E, F, and then everything else just has a note in between. And once you've done this a bit, look at a fretboard diagram again and just follow individual strings. And as you learn this, it's going to solidify and become more visually understood as you can see it, and understood on an intuitive sense as you can do it as a tactile skill. If you can ascend and descend the natural notes easily, then I would encourage you to start practicing being able to also say the note names of our accidentals. So for example, instead of E, F, G, A, now we're just going to play the chromatic scale, which is all the notes, E, F, and then if you're ascending, an easy way to do it is just say sharps. F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E. And then descending, E, E flat, D, D flat, C, B, B flat, A flat, G, G flat, F, and E. If you can do that, you may want to challenge yourself by going ahead and maybe descending with the sharps, E, D sharp, D, C sharp, C, B, A sharp, A, G sharp, G, F sharp, F, E. And the opposite, right? Ascending with flats. So those are a couple of tools that you can really push your knowledge, but we want to be able to just readily, if I know the note, then I know exactly what's before it or after it. If you're a guitarist that is here because you're learning to apply the caged method, then you're almost done actually. We're just going to learn a couple more pointers and then you'll be able to navigate strings 6 and 5 to find your chord roots really effortlessly if you apply the tools. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to memorize note pairs at open, 3, 5, 7, and 10. And what's going to happen is every note is going to be available within one single step of each of those frets. Let's have a look. So from open, we would go up 1 fret. From third, we could go down a fret to get 2. From third, we could go up a fret to 4 or down a fret from 5. From 5, we can go up 1 fret to get 6. And from 7, we can go down a fret to get 6. From 7, we can get 8 from one step. From 10, we can get 9 backward a step. From 10, we can go up a step, or from 12, we can go back a step. And that way it fills out every single note if you have solidly memorized those key notes. And those are easy notes. There's no sharps or flats in those note pairs to deal with. What about past the 12th fret? Well, it all mirrors the exact same as going from open to 12. So you can always just visualize that by extension. And these two strings will give you every root except your D frame. So your C is on your 5th string, your A is on your 5th string, your G is on your 6th string, your E is on your 6th string, and your D is on your 4th string. However, if you ever need to find a D frame for some horrible reason, because they're not easy to do, then you can just look at the 2 surrounding chords and find it by reference. So for example, you got an E before D, right? C, A, G, E, D. So E frame, and then this links into the D frame. So these 2 notes would be the bottom of my D, and then I can just grab the rest of it, and there's my E chord using a D frame. And if I already go past that, or let's say I want to go backwards from a C frame, well, if I use my root to build a C chord off a C frame off of E, there's an E chord. Then from here, I can see, here's the top of my D chord right here with my middle finger and my index finger. So from there, I could go backwards and get the exact same harmony. So I wouldn't worry about memorizing all of the notes of the 4th string. Just stick with 5 and 6, and if you ever need a D frame, you can do it by extension from your E and your C chords. Couple other notes. If you're in drop D, then your 6th string is going to be tuned 2 steps lower than it normally would be. So instead of E, we go down to E flat, down to E. And so if you play an open string with drop D tuning on 6, it's going to be a D instead of an E. And so you just have to make that adjustment of 2 frets and you'll be able to find your notes no problem. Before you go, if you found this helpful and you'd like to support my channel, then I would encourage you to please like and subscribe, and thank you much. Thank you very much for watching. And if you're a classical or jazz fingerstyle player or something like that, and you want to be able to navigate all the notes of the guitar fretboard, then let's keep going. In this next section, I'm going to provide some tips for classical guitarists who are going to be learning to read music on the first 5 frets. So if that's not something you're going to be doing, then you'll probably want to go ahead and skip to the next section. But one tool that is going to be very useful to you if you're a classical guitarist is to learn the open positions systematically. And what I mean by that is a lot of method books will teach you note by note how to learn the strings and notes and everything in this open position where I have my index finger aligned to the first fret. Each finger gets a fret, and then I can play the open strings. So I could go, you know, open 1, 2, 3, 4, open 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. In this area, right in there is where a lot of method books start on guitar. And what a good method will do is it'll start with, here's a couple notes on a string. And then, okay, well, let's read those notes. And it's going to have several pieces to read through with just those notes, and you get comfortable with those. And then you go on to a couple more notes, and then a couple more notes, and then you add more and more notes and build your knowledge of how to read those notes. One method that is extremely good at this is called the Parkening method, or the Christopher Parkening classical guitar method, which I recommend it. I think it's very intelligently designed. In fact, I have a video series. If you'd like to watch that, you can walk through it. However, be careful not to learn by ear. You do need to learn to read the information and know where those notes are on the fretboard. So that's one way to learn, is through that systematic method, and I would encourage you to start with that. But once you've learned to read all the way from open to the 3rd fret, let's just do the natural notes really quick. We've got E, F, G on string 6, all the way through the other strings up to E, F, G on string 1. Once you can cover all those notes, then we'll start looking at a scale of just the natural notes in the open position. And here's what it would look like. Starting on string 6, I've got E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So what I'd encourage you is to be able to do that easily and not have any difficulty remembering what's my next note. And the trickiest part for guitarists is usually the string crossings. So just practice it at a pace that you're not hesitating or getting stuck or making mistakes. And over time, it'll get faster. Once that's easy for you, do it backwards. G, F, E, D, C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C, B, A, G, F, E. And that's the next step in progressing the difficulty. Once you've mastered that, if you really want to become even more solidly established in knowing those notes, then you can be hardcore and do this exercise. What we're going to do is we're going to skip up, step down. And here's what that means. I'm going to start with E. I'm going to skip past F to G. And make sure to say it and play it. E, G. Then I'm going to step back, F. So that's our cycle. It's going to be a skip, step, skip, step, skip, step, skip, step, skip, step. But it's very important that you not only know where they are, but also say the names. And a good intermediary step is to learn to play it first and then add the note names in, because it can be a little brutal to learn it all at once. But the ultimate goal is E, G, F, A, G, B, A, C, B, D, and so on. If you can go all the way up, and then you can turn around, G, F, G, E, F, D, E, C, D, B, and so on, and make your way back down. If you can grab those notes, you don't need to do it that fast, but if you can just slow and steady, E, G, F, A, G, B, something like that is going to be a good indicator that you've gotten to know those notes pretty well. And you combine that with reading music regularly, and it's going to become a cinch. So at this point, we've learned how to move up and down strings pretty easily, individual strings. However, to cross the strings is really going to be usually the most challenging for guitarists. Here's some exercises in how to conquer this. And this is going to be very effective. When we use these skills in conjunction, we can find any note of the fretboard really easily. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to learn all the notes at key junctures. Open should already be done, E, A, D, G, B, E. And then we'll learn the 3rd fret, the 5th fret, the 7th fret, and the 10th fret. And then the 12th fret is exactly the same as open, and it mirrors from there, and so it all repeats. If you're a classical guitarist, you probably won't even need to do this at the 3rd fret because you spend so much time reading an open position anyways. But if you want an extra challenge, then by all means, work at it. But I'm going to provide you with a useful exercise for how to master this. The reason we do open 3, 5, 7, and 10 is because every note is within 1 fret of those notes. So for example, from open, I have my 1st fret available 1 step away. 2nd fret is 1 step away from G, or the 3rd fret. 4th fret is 1 step from 3, and it's also 1 step from 5. 6 is between 5 and 7. From 7 we can find 8, from 10 we can find 9, and from 10 we can find 11, which we can also find backwards from 12, which, like we said, is the same as open. So you can see that if you learn those key junctures, then you only have to go a single step in either direction from those key points. And if you don't want to learn that many positions, then you could learn, I would say, probably 5 and 7. And then you got open, 5, 7, and open, and you only have a couple notes to have to go, a few steps. From 7, you'd have to go 2 steps, and from 5, you'd have to go 2 steps, or open, 1, 2, 3 to get that 3rd fret. So if you want 2 steps a distance, just worry about open 5, 7, and if you want only 1 step a distance, then open 3, 5, 7, 10. This might seem like a lot of information, but it's going to make sense as you put it into practice. So let's go ahead and look at how to actually do this exercise. Let's go ahead and use the open position because it's going to be the most comfortable one for you. First, you're going to start with just going in ascending by notes. So start on string 6, E, A, D, G, B, E, and make sure that you say it and play it. When it's easy for you to go up, try going back down. E, B, G, D, A, E. And you're really going to have to learn that to be able to do it that easily and smoothly. Once you can do that very comfortably, then you're going to proceed on to the next level of difficulty, which is skip step. Okay, I'm going to skip from E to the 4th string, D, and then back to 5, a step back. So think of the strings as steps, okay? So from 6, 4, 5, 3, 4, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 3, 2, 4, 3, 5, 4, 6. And if you want to do a little turnaround, 5, 6. And if that's confusing, just look at the diagram off to the side and it should help to make sense of what's going on there. But you're going to have to learn to be able to just jump over a string and be able to grab, okay, what's the one after this? And when you challenge your brain to do that, it's going to force you to internalize what the notes are better. And if you want to take this even further, then you can do another step of difficulty, which would be to skip 2 strings, skip 1 back. So going from 6 to 3, 5 to 2, 4, 1, do a little turnaround with 3, 1, back 4, 2, 5, 3, 6, 4, 6 for the little turnaround, if you want. I like to do that. I don't know why. So if you apply that, you're going to get really comfortable with those notes. And don't worry about spending a ton of time on it. What I would do is just start with 1 position at a time and maybe dedicate 5 minutes a day to working on this. And as you work on it, it's just going to gradually get easier. And then you can get to the point where the next difficulty isn't so bad and you can start to take it on pretty easily. And once you've tackled that, the next challenge is going to be less challenging than it would have been if you hadn't built up to it. So what you need to do is really scale your difficulty. And it's a self-management skill in which basically, if it's too easy, you're not going to grow. So don't do something that's brainlessly easy for you. If it's too difficult, it's also going to impede your growth. But what you want to do is find a difficulty where it's interesting and actually kind of a fun challenge. And if you do that, then you're going to grow, and what was challenging is going to become easy, and then you step it up to the next difficulty. And so once you master open position, then here's the process you would go through. First, you would learn the notes on, let's say, fret 5, because classical guitarists may already know the notes of fret 3. So you have your A, D, G, C, E, A. And then, okay, I can do that pretty easily. Can I go backwards? A, E, C, G, D, A. And once you can go backwards, all right, let's go up and down, up and down, up and down. And in just a couple of days, once you can go up and once you can go down, then going up and down in just a continuous sequence, it's going to get pretty easy. So from there, you'll do your skip step and do A, G, D, C, G, E, C, A, E, C, E, G, C, D, G, A, D, A. And from there, if you wanted, you could do the double skip, forward, skip back, or you could even do a triple skip, but that is only going to cover 4 strings. And then your quadruple skip is just going to be the same note. A. So take that whole process and then just apply it to those key frets. And if you just patiently plug away at this, then over time, you're going to basically gain access to the whole fretboard, which is really, really nice to have. It makes understanding music and reading music far easier. Let's go ahead and go over the notes of each of those key positions. At open, we have E, A, D, G, B, E, which we learned is our open strings. At the 3rd fret, we're going to have G, C, F, B flat, D, G. 5th fret, we have our A, D, G, C, E, A. Our 7th fret, we're going to have B, E, A, D, F sharp, B. And our 10th fret, we're going to have D, G, C, F, A, D. Whoops, I just played 11th, but that's okay. You get the idea. At the 12th fret, you're going to play exactly the same notes as you would at the open string. So E, A, D, G, B, E. The last topic I would like to touch on is how to use this information. It's really only a twisted sort of trivia if you have all this memorized. It's a tool for creating and reading music. So here are some ways to apply it. If you're in a classical guitar and you want to develop your reading skill, then there is an enormous library of free online music called imslp.org. What it is an online library full of copyright-free music. It's music that's written long enough ago that no one owns the copyright rights to it. So guitarists such as Giuliani, Soar, Aguado, or Carcassi are all available for free, an incredible amount of music. And you can download it, no problem. I think you have to wait 15 seconds unless you have a paid subscription. But one little caveat is the guitar was significantly smaller back then, so don't be surprised if things are, requiring some weird stretches. If you're into fingerstyle jazz or you want to practice composition as a classical musician, then a great exercise is to practice constructing chords. And what I'd recommend is taking a position on the guitar. And by position, I mean, okay, I'm going to limit myself to 2nd fret and up. And so I might say, I want to build a C chord. Well, I've got a G, I've got a C, and I've got an E. So there's a C chord. And maybe you could do progressions. So let's say a C, F, G. I've got a G chord. And then, let's see, how about an F here, an A, and I can keep the same C. And then my G chord would be a G, a B. Normally I'd have 4th string open, but we're trying to challenge ourselves, so we could jump up. Or we could do something like G, D, and then grab a different B. But either way, we're going to have to jump up. And being able to work through those sort of decisions and finding notes is exactly the kind of thing that stretches your ability to find those notes quickly and know where they are. What I'd recommend is starting at the open position, which is usually easiest for people, and practice a progression like that. You'll get to know those chords, you get to know where the notes are, and really stretch your brain. Well, once that's easy, okay, 1st position, no open strings. And once that gets comfortable, okay, how about 2nd or 3rd? And get comfortable there and move your way up gradually. If you try to just leap into different areas, it's going to be insanely difficult. So build up to it. But once you can do that, then you can start getting really creative and looking at, okay, how about this? I have a D minor chord, and then I can change that into an F chord through a really smooth movement. Well, what if I do that C sharp in there? You know, things like that. It starts to become available to you, the ability to create music and get creative and experiment and see what happens when I twist the rules or do some sort of fun in between chord. And you just have new tools at your disposal. So I would encourage you to experiment and push your limits and see how far you can get. If you found this helpful, then I would encourage you to like and subscribe. I hope this information was useful to you, and good luck with your guitar playing. And that is how the strings relate to each other.